Hi everybody, the fake geek girl here again, and today we're going to talk about Sunday's episode of The Walking Dead. So, comic book spoilers and show spoilers if you're not caught up, just because we can't talk about it without talking about spoilers. It was directed by, I had to write down notes. It was directed by Greg Nicotero, and he always does great with, um, directing Walking Dead, especially with Walking Dead. Um, he has directed some of my all-time favorite episodes. The list of ones that he's directed is last week's, obviously, Not Tomorrow Yet, No Way Out, First Time Again, Conquer, Remember, What Happened and What's Going On, No Sanctuary, Us, After, 30 Days Without an Accident, This Sorrowful Life, I Ain't a Judas, can't say that, Say the Word, Judge, Jury, Executioner, and it looks like all of the webisodes. I don't have a complete list, but I think he did all of the webisodes. So, again, like, some of these are my favorite episodes. Like, what's happening and what's going on was so well directed. Whether you liked what happened in that episode or not, you can't deny that it was so well directed. Same thing with I Am Judas. 30 Days Without an Accident was great. Really scary, really intense. Um, Conquer and Remember was that, like, try, conquer, remember, that series of, like, 4 or 5 episodes, which all were really good. And last night's episode was, or not last night, Sunday's episode was pretty amazing as well. Overall, I give it an 8 out of 10, which is really high for me. Usually the episodes, especially lately, have been hitting, like, 5, 6 out of 10, which is really bad for me. I'm pretty generous with how I rate, but the pacing on the past few episodes has been so slow and so just get on with it that I just haven't liked some of the direction on it. My first set of notes we will talk about is my thoughts on the overall season, which 6A and coming into 6B. I have not really been loving this season, which is weird because I liked season 2 and 3, which everyone seems to think is the worst seasons. I got shirt issues going on here. Especially 2. Everyone talks about how slow it is and how we're just on the farm. And I understand that. Being in one location on a show about zombies can get stale fairly quickly, but I think there's a lot of character development in season 2 that we kind of really needed to get out of the way, because if we tried to push that into other seasons, it would just not work. So, I don't know. I liked it. My biggest complaint about this season is overall characterization and Daryl and Carol specifically as characters. We've only seen Carol a few times, and it's always been, the Assassin's Creed Carol, where she's gonna come in and kill everybody. And we're starting to back away from that now. We're starting to get more into seeing her guilt, which I think is incredibly important. We have to see her guilt over killing Karen and David. We have to see her guilt over Lizzie, and not, I think it's more than just killing Lizzie. I think it's not seeing the signs sooner or acting sooner on the signs that there was something really wrong with Lizzie. Because in the real world, without a zombie apocalypse, somebody would have noticed her mutilating animals and gotten her some kind of help, because that's a pretty big sign of, I can't remember if it's psychopath or sociopath. the correct term, but I mean, it's a huge sign that something is wrong with the person if they're mutilating animals, as Lizzie tended to do, and feed them to zombies, which is fun. Yay. But you see Carol internalizing the guilt, which isn't the best way to deal with guilt, but it's a first step into dealing with all the emotions that she's been kind of pushing down in order to be Assassin Carol. So it's good that we see that. Daryl, on the other hand, he needs to change significantly, or he needs to not be alive as a character anymore, which that alone I think is going to get me the absolute most hate, because I'm just getting so tired. When the Savior stopped Daryl, Sasha, and Abe, I wasn't worried. I wasn't. When the head Savior in that group was like, I'm gonna kill you. Oh, well, no, I'm not. Oh, wait. Yes, I knew that Daryl was going to do something to prevent anyone from getting hurt, because we keep seeing this same repetitive Daryl characterization, which is a shame, because in season 1, 2, and 3, we had a really interesting, especially in the first 6 episodes, we had this really interesting dynamic Daryl of he's torn between Merle and the group, and you see it more in season 3 and 4 with everything that went on with the governor and everything going on in the prison. And we've lost that in the last half of 5 and into 6, because it's getting ridiculous. It's getting to the point where, oh, the group has 3 guns and a Daryl. It's like, where is the actual fear that someone's going to get seriously hurt? Even Daryl might get seriously hurt, which we haven't seen. So, either that or we really need to see him suffer the consequences of his actions. It might happen at the end of this season. Who knows? Going back to Carol for a second, I don't hate Carol and Tobin. I think he's a really nice, different type of person for her to be with, because he's not a battle-hardened soldier. He's an everyday guy. He's just some guy who has been riding out the zombie apocalypse pretty comfortably, and he hasn't seen anything really that Carol has seen. He hasn't had to do the stuff that Carol has done, so even if it's a layover relationship before Carol and Daryl happen, or Carol and whoever happen, it's nice to see her at least smile at somebody and get a kiss, which we haven't seen at all on the show ever, because who are we gonna have Carol kiss? Ed? No. She got a few little light pecks with Daryl, but nothing. Carol is one of my favorite characters. She's in my top 5, so that's fun. A little bit of soft Carol again. Another big complaint about this season is it feels like the writing has been getting really sloppy and really lazy. And we're going into big spoilers here, because most of us by now have either read or had issue 100 spoiled for us. And there's only so many times that you can allude to that in the show without it becoming... It's not going to be if it happens the way it happens in the comic book, it's not going to be a big shock at this point, because everyone knows that Glenn gets Lucille. Everybody does at this point. And you keep pushing this with nearly getting hit at Terminus, picking up the baseball bat in What Happened and What's Going On, seeing the pictures even of people who have been Lucille'd. It's starting to feel less like foreshadowing and more like a red herring, where it's gonna be Glenn, it's gonna be Glenn, look, it's gonna be Glenn. And it's starting to feel like a red herring in which it's gonna happen to somebody else. And it might serve another character better. It's such an iconic scene in the comic book, and it changes everyone. And one of the big people it changes is Maggie. But we don't necessarily need Glenn's death for Maggie to be affected in any way. Because we've already seen her start to step up as a leader, because Deanna was grooming her, in a sense, to be a leader. So we don't necessarily need Glenn's death to push her that much farther. We can see her taking the steps with Gregory, even to take over Hilltop. A theory that I sort of have, would like to maybe see, I don't know how it would play out, I don't even think anyone would do it, is the Glenn and Maggie story, that bit of the Glenn and Maggie storyline, go to Rick and Michonne, with Rick dying and Michonne taking over Hilltop, and Maggie staying at Alexandria to take over Alexandria. But in my whole, I have a theory, that's probably like the last one. That most unlikely to happen. People have also thrown around Tara as a possible victim, Denise as a possible victim, but I don't, because Denise isn't there with the group right now. Abraham, that's a possibility. Daryl as a possibility. If we keep Glenn alive, we have a really interesting possibility for a storyline, because we don't have him in the comic books anymore. So what we can do with his storyline going forward would be completely new for the series, for the TV series, which I think is a good way to do it. I like remixing. I like how they brought in Bob. I don't remember if he was in the comic book or not. It's how far back I've been. I haven't read them in a while. But to give Bob Dale's death, and to give Herschel Tyrese's death, and there have been others, but I do like that remixing. I think it's a really interesting way to play. I dropped my notes. Let's see if I can see what that one is. I would love to see more Denise and Tara moments, because I just think they're such a fun couple. They're so cute. And I guess my final thought is I was highly annoyed by Jesus's comment. I can't remember the exact quote, but it's something like, "This is the world now," after Glenn and Heath shot through the door, which was super totally sexy. And that's my new sexual orientation, Heath and Glenn shooting through a door. I don't know why. It was just incredibly sexy. And my phone just went off. Cool. But he had just got done, telling the group how horrible Negan's men were and how they killed a 16-year-old boy right off the bat, pun intended. He knows the saviors are horrible. He knows these people are part of the saviors. So the comment just felt really out of place for Jesus to say that after telling Team Family all the crap that happened. It felt so weird. Another thing, I'm a little scattered now. Glenn is no longer an innocent. He no longer doesn't have blood on his hands. So one of the reasons Glenn in the comic book I think was killed was because, as The Walking Dead has shown, if you're the moral compass, your days are numbered. So with Glenn killing the savior, the sleeping saviors at that, is he still the moral compass? Is there someone else who hasn't killed humans yet? Is there someone who can be the moral compass? Do we even have a moral compass? Do we need a moral compass? Is that what it's saying? Because I can't think of anyone who hasn't killed a human. And if I'm wrong, current cast never killed a human, tell me in the comments, because I can't think of anyone now at this point. So yeah, do we need a moral compass in this world? Do we need someone to tell us this is pretty bad? Is it going to be Morgan who's the moral compass now? We've all seen so far what happens when he is, but did he get through to the wolf? Questions. But yeah, hopefully Glenn doesn't die. I don't want Glenn to die. He's my favorite character. He's too sweet. I'd like Rick to die, I think. In a perfect, I wrote this, I think I would give that part of the Glenn Maggie storyline to Rick and Michonne, because Rick's just becoming unlikable. He's just, and I think that was part of the problem with the big time skip, the 1 to 2 month time skip. We didn't get a single moment of them grieving for the loss of the Alexandrians, and Rick especially. I think even if it was just him standing by Jesse's grave or digging Jesse's grave and having Michonne, I think this is how I would like to see the scene play out, is Rick is digging Jesse's grave, and Michonne comes up and starts helping him, looks him in the eye and says, "This wasn't your fault." Because even if Jesse was a layover relationship, he still did care about her. Even, to quote Shane, a cat in a tree. Like, she needed help. She was being abused. She was scared. And he wanted to comfort her in any way he could, even though it was very obvious since season 3 that Rick and Michonne were going to be a thing. He needed that moment to mourn Lori. He needed the time. And he needed a transition between Lori and Michonne to really understand his own feelings and to understand his own conscience. Sorry about that. So, we missed so much in that time jump, that we missed Carl healing and asking for Lori, which was in the comic, which was a great moment. We lost rebuilding Alexandria. We missed a complete and total Glenn and Maggie reunion. It was completely gone. Like, you don't think your husband's dead and then just move on with it when he comes back. You need that moment where they're together, and I don't know. I guess that's my little rant on The Walking Dead, and my phone went off again. So I think that's time for me to call it a day. And like, comment, subscribe, please. I don't know what that was. That wasn't cute. And I will see you next week for more Walking Dead. Maybe I'll go see a movie. Maybe I'll just do an old-timey review, retro review. I don't know. So yeah, let me know in the comments below what you liked, what you didn't like about The Walking Dead Season 6, Episode 12, Not Yet Tomorrow. Or Not Tomorrow Yet. Wow, that was a really bad outro. Anyway, see ya. Bye-bye.